Hi, welcome back to part 4. In this part, we're talking about instructional models of workstations or also centers. Those terms are used kind of interchangeably. Okay, so what is a workstation? We think of it as an area within the classroom where students work alone or interact with one another using instructional materials to explore and expand their learning. Now, I do want to kind of differentiate between this idea of workstations and traditional learning centers as they were kind of in the past. So I'm going to talk about differences between these two. Workstations have materials and they're taught with and used for instruction first, and then they're placed in the workstation for independent use. And centers, often we were just like put materials there and then students would just go, it wouldn't have been part of instruction first. It was like, you're just going to go to these centers and work with these materials. Stations will remain set up all year long, and the materials are changed to reflect different areas of development, levels, strategies being taught, and different topics or areas of study. In centers, they were often changed kind of weekly to go with different units of study, and the materials changed every week. So it wouldn't be consistent with what the center was called. It'd be a different center like each week. Stations are used for students to engage in meaningful independent work. This is important. It shouldn't be just busy work. Should be a real integral part of a student's instruction. If we're thinking about the gradual release of responsibility, stations can be at that independent level, right? And all students will go to stations as part of their work for the day. Centers are often thought of like, oh, that's an option. So in kindergarten classrooms, often we'll see a house center, right? And they, if they're finished with their worksheet, they can go play in the house. And they were often used for fun and motivation as something kind of extra at times. Their workstations are really focused on practicing materials at different differentiated levels. So if it is a particular station where they're working on a math skill, that what one student does while they're at that station may look different than what another student does. And at traditional centers, they really were all the same, and students just went there and did the same thing. So the teacher and the students will create the directions for activities together, and they share and build the ownership of those workstations. Whereas at a traditional center, it's the teacher who just wrote the directions and prepared everything and put it in there. So during the workstation time, there's usually always a time where students come work with the teacher, and the teacher is providing some differentiated instruction in that small group teaching. And traditional centers, if the teacher met with small groups, each group often did the exact same thing when they came to them. Okay, you'll recognize how are we doing the gradual release of responsibility with thinking about workstations. So again, more from teacher control here on the left to more student and less teacher control on the right. And it all happens beginning with modeling, right? And then some, a little bit of hand holding in the middle, and then some independence there at the end. Same happens with workstations. Okay, part 5 will be about the 5E model.